coming in. I haven't heard that. I know Gabe is and Missy is there. So if this thing runs off, they promised Missy we'd record this so she can watch it and get her stuff done.
You hear that, Missy?
So if that goes off or something, let me know and we'll take a break till we can get it back up.
Okay.
Couple things on club things. We put, I think, a deadline of Tuesday, last Tuesday, on knowing whether you are going or not. I think there's a couple people still up in the air, unsure on that.
Is it just me? And Gabe.
And Gabe, because of his school.
And he'll be in shortly.
Yeah.
So we need that answer. I do need a volunteer from somebody who is competing, and we need to take the people that are competing, we need a list of those people, and we need to get signed up and registered over the web today so that we can generate an invoice and transmit that to Interclub. Juan, you'll have to get involved with that. I will help both of those folks. So the person that volunteers to do the signing up will jump onto a website, you'll see the information, and then we'll just have people cycle through your computer and fill it out and sign up, and we can generate an invoice at the end. We'll give it to Juan and go get that submitted for payment. That should happen today. Probably take a start to finish an hour. Maybe what we'll do, whoever volunteers on that, we can open up a computer that nobody's using so that you can draft or something outside of that too while we're waiting for everybody to fill it out. Sean, you were on the club committee. Did you guys get your results tabulated and everything?
I think Gabe got them all back. Is there anyone that did not fill that survey out on Google Classroom?
Oh, I don't know that I did.
Survey.
Because I think they put me on it. I didn't.
Okay, at our last meeting, before our last meeting on Friday, Gabe put out a survey on Google Classroom so that we could kind of get an idea of what types of firms we were going to go see in Boise. And if you had any specific ones that you wanted us to check out.
Will you remind the class right as we finish lecture today, and then everybody can jump in and get that filled out if they need to. We need to get those contacts figured out and established as soon as we can. So we need that data back so that Sean and Gabe can tabulate it and move forward with that on the next step. Anything else on Clubwise that we need to know?
Are we gonna take any tours here? And like, I know we're gonna take local tours, but is there approximately how many you want to get in before?
No, that's up to the club.
It's up to the club. Okay.
That's why we need our surveys.
Okay. So I need to know how many days.
You guys need
I'll
to
be
follow
off
up on what these committees ask you to do. All right, let's jump in. We're getting ready to really jump into the drawing of architecture. You have now been contacted by a client. So what I hope to do today is to produce a drawing that will have most of the standards set up for you. We call those templates, right? So we don't have to do this every single time we start a drawing in this discipline. So in essence, we're going to run through and create a template. After that, I want to go through the information that you were provided and give you some ideas on how to get started. Because many times that's the hardest part, and you probably found that out on 3D modeling. How many hours did you sit there and go, well, let's see, where do I get started? How do I draw that first line? Okay, and once you get there, then generally things will start to develop, but we got to make those steps. And so I'm going to kind of run through a quick design process of how I would put together something like this. And I'm not an architect by nature, by any stretch of the imagination. I have worked with a lot of them. I've done a lot of residential building and design. So I'm going to approach it from that. I have learned from some people that have made an entire career out of it. Some of the best I've ever met are here locally. And specifically, I'll throw a kudos out to a lady called Mary Wannenberg, who is a passion in this and is just a wonderful drafter. She comes at things and I'm just amazed all the time and think, well, where is your mind at? How are you coming up with these concepts? But over time, dealing with her over the last 20 years, I've been back in the Valley. I've picked up on some of her stuff also. We also have some other people around that have influenced us also. All right, so in essence, we're starting a drawing from scratch. You're probably still set up to draw mechanically or modeling, right? So the first thing we probably ought to do is flip our workspace, because this isn't set up real well for two-dimensional drafting. And in essence, that's the way we're going to approach this. Now, certainly, I threw out the thing, you can go 3D on this, and you're not gonna lose any time. Does anybody plan on going 3D AutoCAD on this to start with? Kinda iffy? How about Revit? I'm more than happy to support you. And I think it would be a good exercise if you said, hey, you know what, I don't have anything going this weekend, let me draw it in CAD, and I'll also jump to Revit and draw it. Believe it or not, you can draw everything in Revit, and you can ship it to AutoCAD, okay, and just bring the same stuff in. Or you can start in AutoCAD, ship it to Revit, so you don't have all those space constraints, and just digitize over the top. The programs are developed by the same company, therefore they do move back and forth fairly well. So keep in mind.
Scared us with all these deadlines you have to meet with trying to do Revit, we have not made a deadline. And that's.
You won't lose any time, I will guarantee you. You will actually
Gain.
save time.
For that, not even knowing how to do Revit?
Well, I mean,
That's the thing.
certainly,
You got a learning curve
You're-
there, and then
yeah, you will have a learning curve. Certainly, I think if you do that, you're gonna be expected, you should expect yourself to spend more time than classroom time
Yeah.
for this. Okay, but you will be ahead in the drawing process. Because remember, Revit will generate, just like ViewBase, it will generate all your views for you. You do the model, it does the drafting for you. So it will draw all your elevations, it'll draw your floor plans, it'll draw all those for you at the click of a button.
So could we draw our model, or our layout in CAD and move it to Revit and then have our other views?
Yeah, many times that's the way I actually operate. Because you found out in Revit, those of you that worked in it, it is hard to get things set at a distance, right? Because it doesn't really have a great offset command or a line command. I can rough out a floor plan in AutoCAD fairly quickly. And then I send that to Revit, and I've got all my snap points. And so my doors are sitting in the exact location I want them, the windows are in the exact location, the walls, everything. And in fact, it's not a bad way.
we can download Revit home.
Yes, Revit is available to you, the same as AutoCAD is through the Educational Autodesk downloads. All right, so we're going to create a template. You switch your workspace to 2D drafting and annotation. I don't know that you want to do that, but you're welcome to. I am, because this puts my layers and everything up in that front one. All right, so what's our first step? Let's kind of do a review of drafting 132.
Units.
I just don't remember what my first step is in creating a template.
So you opened Imperial, no template.
Yep, I did Imperial, start from scratch, Imperial, no template.
Check your units.
So we need to make our layers.
So do you think you should do a front view before you switch over to 2D?
I'm gonna go 2D the whole way, so do you wanna go to the front view on this? I'm gonna stay 2D in this, so it doesn't really matter. And in fact, the majority of your views architecturally are top views. Like you will have approximately, I don't know, 4 to 5 top views, sections taken at different levels. You will really only have 1 left, 1 right, 1 front, and what's the other one? 1 back. Okay, so where were you at, Sean? Sorry.
We need to make our layers.
Okay, we need to make our layers. Probably the best way to do that is,
Put on the layer bracket.
Did you say your unit first?
Go to new layers.
okay, we gotta do all that, so let's do layers. Now, since we've got kind of everything set up in other ones, so I'm gonna use my
Okay.
design center.
We're gonna say one sheet.
Okay, and if I go to the C drive and find any drawing from drafting 132, I think I will find all those layers. Now, if you don't, you can create your own. I am going to ask that you add some extra ones, so we'll get to those. Let me open a drawing first. Okay, so you don't have to bring the earth, but we do need a border layer. We will have a title block in there. You will need an OBJ, section, text, viewport, hidden
Put in DC.
dimension.
That's how I found it. So you clicked on the drawing you wanted, and then you picked out layers?
Yeah, just open any drawing that you have done.
Uh-huh.
There's a layers icon, double click into there, and then just highlight them all and drag them into your drawing, and they're there. I did that and I've now opened it up. There's some in here I don't have. You will need a phantom layer. I didn't have that one.
So drag everything or just
I would.
Phantom is a .12 line, right?
Phantom is a .012.
125.
Is that the only one you do in Design Center?
I grabbed all of them.
No, I mean, besides layers.
Well, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
The only other thing you might want to grab out of there, and we'll see it later, just leave this up on that drawing, is we can come back to it, because multi-liters are the same in architectural as dimensions. or-
Right, you just have to find the layer.
Okay, now, one thing I'd recommend, and I don't know if you want to do a naming convention or a color change, that is totally up to you. The OBJ layer is going to primarily be all of your edges of material here. And in essence, that's walls. Okay, so most of the time I switch my OBJ to a layer called walls, just to remind me whenever I'm doing a wall, it needs to have the OBJ. Now, we'll have other edges out there, like edges of roofs that will go on that layer, things of that nature. So you will need those. One other layer that I always add is a doors and windows layer. Now, this should be a thin line layer with continuous lines. So I'll call it doors and wind, kind of keep my name short. You can make it whatever color you want. I know you folks can't really see red. That it's the same qualifications as a dimension layer, so on my computer I run red. I'm going to put mine white here, but you can put it whatever you wish. But the big part here is it should be continuous lines, and the line weight should be 0.012. Doors are background information, therefore they should have a thin line weight.
how much is the line weight for the doors?
Thin.
Thin.
0.01.
0.012.
Yep, you got thin, medium, thick. 0.012, 024, 031. Right? Same thing we use all the way through. That hasn't changed.
Did you make a new wall, I mean, a new OBJ and call it walls, or?
I've got my OBJ. All I got to do is click into it and just change the name if I want to. I would also recommend you need a layer that you can toggle on and off for visibility that has all of your items that aren't nailed down. I call this my furniture layer, but you can call it cabinet layer or whatever, but think of all of your cabinets, upper and well, uppers are unhidden, but the lowers, we got to show all of our plumbing fixtures so the plumber knows where to take the pipes to. We need to show where the range is because that's 220, so the washer and dryer. All of this stuff is background information to the floor plan, should be again 012, but mostly you want toggleability of it. So I always create a layer. I call mine furniture. You can have whatever color you want. I know this color right here 21 pops up on the projector pretty good, so I'll use that one. And again, it should be a continuous line, 0.012. Did you bring in your X layer that we had from our templates? One thing is you are going to need one line that is very, very thin. And we use this to demonstrate dimensional lumber, blocking, beams, things like this. We have different symbols we use, or nails maybe sometimes, and details. But we're going to show these at a pretty big magnification factor. And if you have any type of line weight to it at all, it will blend into the things around it. So if you do have an X layer, this is what I use for it, but you might call it something else. Make the line weight 006 on it. We're going to go with the super thin line for this layer. You will need it when we start doing our remove details and things of that nature. Okay. So I just call mine the X layer, and you can give it whatever color you wish. I like the grays for this one. Big thing is continuous line and make it 0.006. And I have seen some people, and I don't disagree with it, even go 0.004 on that line. Gabe, we just opened a drawing from scratch and we're starting to build a template. We're doing layers. That's the first step. Okay. You haven't missed much. That ought to get you most of it for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Juan, did you have a question? Anything else? For now, this is probably a good start. Now, as you go through the drawing process, take your walls layer, or the OBJ layer, is where we're pretty much going to start. When you do your doors and windows, make sure those lines are on that layer, because you're going to want to toggle these on and off. Any furniture you put in, okay, and we'll cover those and what we put in. We don't put in beds and sofas and stuff like that. We put in hard fixtures. You will need a section layer, text layer, all that type of stuff. Any questions on these? Okay. All right, so our layers are now set. One thing we might want to do at this point is do a save as, because we're going to save it as a template, right? Okay, so I'm going to come in and do a file, save as, and just as a reminder, down on the bottom here, if you just go straight to save as, I know you can choose the template option. I'm going to switch that to an EWT. It should default to my template directory. And I'm just going to call this one Arch D.
Arch D.
So you're saving it as a template.
Yes, I am. All right, after the layers, what's something else we need to change?
Units.
Units, okay. So UN, and here, what do we want to
16.
set that on?
Architectural.
Cool.
Architectural. Architectural has a standard tolerance. Okay, by that, the industry has a tolerance of 1/16 of an inch that is assumed unless it's stated otherwise. So set your precision to 1/16 if it's not defaulted into there, and you do not have to list a tolerance on your drawings. Okay, it is always assumed unless it's stated otherwise. This is half the distance, 1/16 is half the distance of a saw blade for like a skill saw. It's an 1/8 inch blade. So we expect all our cuts to be within half of that saw blade. You're going to go inches for your insertion scale. Angle can be the same. We have very few angles in here. Remember, 90-degree angles are the only angle that is not dimensioned. Most things are 90 degrees. Now, you may have some 45s and stuff that we have to do, but generally you're going to go to 0 decimal places. So we're good with that. What else do we have to do?
No, because you,
Textiles, gotta do textiles. These are in your packet. How many textiles are you doing? ST gets you into that, right? I would start with your annotative, that's because that's already annotative. Remember how to do this one, new, and call it whatever you want. I like Arch 1, Arch 2, Arch 3. Arch 1. Oh, and I don't think I have Arch style on this with
ST.
you. So I'm going to use Country Blueprint. One thing, if you want to think of, I chose City Blueprint. You don't have to go with archstyle.shx, but I will tell you archstyle.shx has some great hotkeys. You won't regret using that text style. Yeah, it says all your fractions for you, which is huge in text. And when you get to your details and stuff. So I would recommend you stay with it. There are some other architectural fonts. City and Country Blueprint seem to be the two predominant ones. This is an example of City, but I don't have the hotkeys with this. So,
So, you just leave it as text SHX where it was, that's art style? You have to actually find it.
you have to find it, archstyle.shx. And the height of this one is an 1/8 inch, because we're gonna make it annotated. Okay, apply, do another one. And this one's gonna be Arch 2. Now, just to stay with the others, I usually do my Arch 2 at 0.25 size, because that's the way Mech 1 and Mech 2 are set up. And then I do Arch 3 as my room title size. That one is a 16, 0.1875. Those of you that have taken the time to memorize those fraction to decimal equivalents, you're going to reap the benefit for the next 6 weeks.
For Arch 3, you said it was
3/16.
Is that the only one you change is the height?
Are we going to be dimensioning this or no?
We will be dimensioning in here.
So we'd have to figure out do our dimensions.
So we need to do our gym styles.
Let's do our dim style.
can't you
That
get
would
them from the ADC?
What's that?
Can you get them from the AutoCAD
You
design?
know, we've had a problem with the dims in variable if you start with an old one. Because it doesn't toggle right. So I wouldn't start with a Mech 1 dimension style. Because it doesn't seem like that dims in variable transfers well. So I would start from scratch. And now we did set you up an architectural one back at 135, that was correct. You may want to go grab that one. You're welcome to, but I'm just going to jump in and do it. Yes.
Are we gonna use our custom arrowhead or do you want us to use a CSI arrowhead?
I want you to use an architectural tip. I don't want you to use an arrowhead, because that is not the architectural
Yeah.
standard. All right, so we open the dim style dialog box, and let's just run through them, and maybe we'll run across the back. Why don't we start with Gabe, or you in this, Gabe? You caught up yet?
What?
Are you caught up?
Almost.
Yeah, you've already gone through it. Okay. All right, well, you folks help me out on these deal. We'll just let people wait. So I'm gonna do a new one, and
Wouldn't it be,
Arc
with
one.
our-
wouldn't it be under annotated instead of standard?
No, because you can just click annotative right
doesn't
there.
really matter. So, click on new, give it a name, there's annotation. Remember, that's your dim anno variable. You want that on.
Continue.
Hit continue. Let's start with the lines tab. What needs to change in the lines tab?
Architect.
Can I see that? Ex-
We'll change the exact same things we did back in the mechanical.
I'm so blind now. Okay.
So our baseline spacing needs to be a 1/4 inch.
Now, baseline spacing works with dim baseline. And that, remember when we set one line and then we click on dim baseline and then it then sets the next row, the next row, the next row? We're still gonna go ½ inch off for your first row. And then, or excuse, yeah, ½ inch for the first and then 3/8 for all successive rows of dimensioning. So dim baseline's okay here. It's at 3/8.
What about the extend beyond dim lines?
Yes.
Is that the one that?
Dim EXO.
Okay.
That one's wrong.
Isn't it point?
So this is, that's
0.125.
that section right up here where the extension line goes past your termination of the dimension line. That should be an 1/8 inch. That's the only thing we changed in here.
Symbols and
So
arrows.
click in that, type 0.125, and you're good. Let's go to the next tab, symbols and arrows.
Architectural tick.
The
Arrow size is 0.125.
Okay, let me catch it.
I just got this one.
So click on annotation. No. Call it arch 1.
That says a quarter inch.
No, it's a point.
Click on annotate.
It's only 8 inch, I thought it was arrow size is quarter.
No, turn it off.
It's in the
Annotate.
1/8 inch
Lines tab.
long, and then you
Change
go
that to an 1/8.
Quarter inch
the
long.
length divided by.
I think it's off going up.
Just highlight it, type
What
out.
was?
Oh, no.
Thank you, next tab. All right, so what changes on symbols and arrows?
Size.
Isn't it?
The size, quarter inch.
Symbols and arrows tab, what do we change?
1/8.
Arrow size.
The arrowhead.
Okay, do you remember the variable name of that?
Architectural.
Yes.
Is it dim leader block, dim block 1, dim block 2?
Dim block one.
Right on. There, that tagged the memory, I think. So you change dim block 1 to an architectural tick. Dim block 2 should default by itself. We don't change dim leader block because that works with Q leader.